Okay, hello there booktube, Aaron here, hope you're doing okay. Today I'm going to try and catch up on my tags. I've got a few building up and I thought I'd try and, well, I was going to do two at once. I tried doing it and it didn't go particularly well. I think it confused me a bit. So I'm going to be patient. There are, all being well, quite a few Tuesdays ahead of me to do some tag Tuesdays. So I'm just going to go one by one. And we'll see how many I can get done. But today I'm going to do the bring browsing back tag. I keep saying the bring browsing book tag, which I think is just automatic because so many tags have the word book in the title. But anyway, it was created by Roving Reader, and it's a great little tag. And I was tagged in it very kindly by Alan from Big Hard Books and Classics. Thank you, Alan. And yeah, let's just get into it. It's a great little tag about browsing, the magic of browsing, and about the way those unexpected finds can change you, the way books can change you. So the first prompt, magic of discovery. Share a book you found while browsing that you may not have found otherwise. And I've got a few books to show here, just mainly because I felt bad about some of the other prompts, because they're not necessarily books I found while browsing per se, whereas all of these are. But the main one I wanted to focus in on was the Labyrinth of the Spirits by, I always get his name wrong, Carlos Ruiz Zafron. So this is actually the last book in a series. So it's the last of his Cemetery of Forgotten Books series. But I don't know, I just read the back of it and it sounded good. I didn't realise it was the fourth book in a series. And yeah, I liked the sound of it. I read it, I enjoyed it, and then I realised that it was actually the fourth book. And I think it's actually quite a good thing that I was able to do that. I think it shows that he's quite a strong series writer, that, everything sort of makes sense. He's not over explaining things, but you're not totally lost either. You've got enough context to understand all the characters. So yeah, a really brilliant book, and eventually I'll start at the beginning of that series and then see how I find it the second time round. But I've got a few more books that I wouldn't have found without browsing, about just that happenstance of coming across something. So this is one I picked up recently. It was in a recent haul. It's called The Exiles Return by Elizabeth Duval. And she grew up in Vienna, and I'd heard her name. Her name jumped out at me because she is, I believe, the grandmother of Edmund Duval, who wrote the Hare with Amber Eyes, and it's a wonderful sort of family memoir. And so he tells her story as part of the book and her early life in Vienna, and she was really determined to learn and make something of herself. And she wrote poetry, she wrote letters to Rilke, and eventually history got in the way. But later in life she still wrote, and she wrote novels, and she just wrote them for herself, just to get them out of her system. But eventually, after her death, they've been published, and it was, just really exciting to see that one of her books has been published. I think that's a really beautiful thing to see. So I want to get to this soon and see how it is. I've also got here, this was quite a fun little find. This is a collection of French tales, stories chosen and translated by Helen Constantine. And it's going through France geographically, region by region, with a short story from each region. And there's stories here by Colette, by Emile Zola, and probably by Balzac as well, if I remember right. I can't quite remember. And a few other sort of luminaries, a few other maybe more recent French short story writers, but it's giving you an idea of the literary landscape of French letters, but it's also giving you the actual landscape as well, and a sense of the country and the customs, which is really lovely. And then the last then is And this is just one of those books that just, before I picked it up, it always stood out in a bookshop, and I was always curious about it, but I never picked it up until the day I bought it, which is The Lumen Race by Eleanor Catton. And it's a really, really wonderful book. And just seeing it on the shelves of the bookshops, every time I'd walk into a bookshop and I'd walk past, it would catch my eye. It's just, wonderfully designed. And then, one day I thought, well, that's been standing out to me for so long. I should probably pick it up. So after a couple of years of seeing it in bookshops, I picked it up. I read the synopsis on the back and just thought, this sounds really great. It sounds like a great, just immersive and atmospheric book, and it didn't disappoint. It was amazing. So I'm I'm glad it worked out. Right, moving on. Second prompt: expanding world. Share a book that has made you view things from a different perspective or exposed you to new ideas. And for this, I don't have a physical book to show you. I'll put something up on the screen. But I was thinking of Dr. Faustus by Christopher Marlowe. So this is a early modern play. This isn't a book that I found through browsing necessarily. It was on my university syllabus, so I had no way of getting out of it. But it was one of those things where it made me realise that perhaps I was seeing history a little oversimplistically. Just the way I imagined life in 16th century Europe was incredibly oversimplistic in terms of religion or politics or just society generally. It just helped me see it was a bit weirder and much more vibrant than my earlier picture was. And I think the more we read from a period, the more vibrant that time becomes for us. And that was one of many lessons, in that department, but one that really stood out. Then on to number 3, open to change. Share a book that changed who you are as a person or altered your day-to-day habits. And, I could go maybe into something really, really deep, although I don't read that much sort of non-fiction that would, maybe get you to change your your life in some way. But I thought I'd share one that changed my life in this kind of bookish kind of way. And I probably wouldn't be here making book videos if it weren't for this. I probably wouldn't be into reading that much if it wasn't for this. And that's the Mortal Engines series by Philip Reeve. So I've picked up the whole thing because every time I talk about them, it's worth showing them all off, even just for the artwork. So there's Mortal Engines, there's Predator's Gold. I think this is my favourite, if I remember. I don't know. I really need to reread them. Then there's Infernal Devices. It's a bit annoying this one doesn't actually match the rest of them on the spine, even though they came as a set. And then a Darkling Plane. And it's just great sort of cyberpunk, post-apocalyptic, fantasy, science fiction sort of stuff. And they came to me at a point when I wasn't really much of a reader, and they sat around for a while. In my early to mid-teens, I was very good at starting books, but not particularly good at finishing them. And this was just one of those books where, after I'd finished my GCSEs, I had a bit of time on my hands. I thought, I'll pick those up and give them another go, see if I can finish the first book without getting distracted. And then I just got hooked. And just fell in love with the world, with the writing. I just liked the way he wrote. As a teenager, I felt like a lot of writers were being quite condescending, but I didn't feel like that with Philip Reeve. I felt like he was quite safe in some ways, but he's not talking down to me at the same time. And that was really the thing that reignited my love of reading. That I don't know, probably started with well, with my parents telling us stories and reading stories, and when I read The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings and C.S. Lewis and stuff like that. And yeah, and then, you know, I kept reading, and I did a degree in English, and I'm still reading, making bookish videos, and yeah, I don't know how, I mean, my life would be very, very different, I think, if I hadn't picked those books up at that time. You know, maybe I would have got back into reading, maybe some other book would have, you know, reignited that spark. But for me, with, you know, where my life has taken me, it was these books by Philip Reeve. I really need to read them again and you know, see how they do at this, you know, at this stage. But they were, yeah, really, really good, and just came at the right time. Then number 4 is browse a bookstore, library, or a friend's shelves. I'm putting this together a little too last minute to put in a bit of a vlog. Maybe at some point I will do a, I don't know, a local bookshop blog, or a library vlog or something. I definitely am that person who, when I go around to someone's house and they have bookshelves, I will be there browsing them. Not judging, I'm just curious. I want to see what's there. Same if they have, you know, CDs or, you know, or DVDs. I just want to see what they're into. You know, it's a cool way to try and figure out someone's personality, I suppose. And then number 5 is tag people. I'm going to be a little timid again, and I'm not going to tag anyone specifically, but if you're watching this and you'd like to do it, then please consider yourself tagged. And there we go, that's the end of the Bring Browsing Back tag by Roving Reader. Again, thank you very much, Alan, for tagging me. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And yeah, happy reading, happy browsing.